In tightly contested golf matches, golfers always look forward to the rub of the green. But in politics, there is no such thing. Or is it? Good evening. I'm Guthrie Munyuki, and welcome to Vantage. Tonight on the program, we have for the second time the opposition leader and MDC president, Senator Douglas Mwonzora. Senator Mwonzora, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Guthrie, and I'm happy to see you after a very long time.
Sure.
Thank you for inviting me.
Sure. Very soon, next month to be precise, the World Cup will be kicking off in Qatar. I am a Manchester United fan. Internationally, Germany, Spain, and Brazil. Do you know that whenever the World Cup has never been played in Europe, Brazil have tended to win most of the matches. There are 5 titles. They've all come away from the European soil. It is in the Middle East. I put my money on Brazil. Where is your smart money?
I think Lionel Messi is on the resurgence. He is doing very well for Paris Saint-Germain. And he is clearly psyched for the World Cup. Unlike most years, where he was taking his talent for granted, this time he has such a big winner mentality. And I think Argentina is going to get the World Cup. I watched them when they played Copa America. I've watched their friendly games. The friendly game against Honduras, Lionel Messi was in devastating form against Jamaica. That free kick is out of this world. So Lionel Messi and Argentina are taking the World Cup.
Interesting. We'll see. But I'll tell you, for the duration of the World Cup, the friendship between Messi and Neymar could be set aside. Anyway, let's talk about our very own World Cup in Zimbabwe, in political terms. Senator Mwonzora, the MDC should have held its Congress. And I understand you are likely to hold the Congress before the elections. Do you think you will still be at the helm of the MDC after that Congress?
We are going to have our ordinary Congress maybe beginning of December this year. We have had a meeting of the Presidium today to discuss the dates, and I can safely say that, confidently say that we are having our Congress in December. It is the second Congress that we are having ever since the Supreme Court judgment. The first Congress was an extraordinary Congress on the 27th of December 2020, and I won that overwhelmingly. I had predicted that I was going to win by 70%. I won 85% of the vote. This Congress, I am likely to win again. Looking at what the party members are saying about the work that I've done for the party and the work that I continue to do. And I think that I'm going to win the Congress again.
Last week on the program, I had Eddie Cross, a former member of the MDC, and he expressed its fears that in the next parliament, most likely that you're likely to lose most of your seats to the Triple C. Do you think that there could be such an eventuality?
Well, there's always a tendency of underestimating other people, and that is normal within politics. But anybody who has studied the MDC knows that the MDC does well when it is an underdog. The MDC tends to do well. Its behavior in elections is cyclical. It's never constant. In 2000, it went up. The very first election, it almost took over the parliament. In 2005, it went down. In 2008, it went up, won the presidential elections and won the majority in parliament. In 2013, the MDC went down. In 2018, we went up. In 2022, on the 26th of March, we went down. What remains in 2023, we are going to go up. That is the trend of the MDC. We are going to win. We are the most active party right now in Zimbabwe. And what you have, if you have looked at the social media, you would have seen small crowds that are gathering at our meetings. These are district restructuring meetings. These are the structures. So what we have done, contrary, as opposed to the CCC has gone for the mass first. We have gone for the structure first, then mass second. The CCC wants mass first, then it structure second. It's a very unorthodox way of organizing. I don't know whether it works. We believe we have the consistency. We believe that we have sufficient depth within our ranks to mount one of the most dramatic political comebacks ever known in the history of our country. It's coming next year.
3 years ago, your national chairman, Senator Morgan Komichi, was here on this program, and he intimated that you have learned from your mistakes because of what might have been perceived to be dalliances with ZANU-PF, and you'll be acting like an opposition party, for which you are. So, do you believe that you're likely to sway those who are beginning to doubt you because of this so-called tag of being an underling of ZANU-PF?
Well, for close to 2 years, the MDC was on the receiving end of very hateful propaganda, which was coming from two quarters, from those formerly MDC people and from those formerly ZANU-PF people in the G40. And these people were working together to make sure that the MDC sinks. And they out-messaged us. Their propaganda was effective against us, and this is what caused the upset in the by-elections. But we have since corrected that, and our information department is under construction. It is going to be highly effective, and so on. But what is most important is that the MDC is richer. Is richest, I think, in message. It's richest in content compared to other political parties. Other political parties are populist and say things for the amusement of the mass, but the MDC is talking alternative policy. And you can see that the message of the MDC, the message of dialogue, the message of rational disputation, is finding more and more takers by the day. There are people within the CCC, for example, who are now identifying with this message. There are people within ZANU-PF who are identifying with this message. The churches have accepted this message. The non-governmental organizations, the civil society, have accepted this message. So what is important is that we are within message. We are not a hateful lot. We are not a violent outfit. We are a very experienced political outfit. Yes, we had our disadvantage, but as Mandela says, a saint is a sinner who keeps on trying. So this failure that we suffered on the 26th of March was a learning curve. This was work in progress. The political game is defined not by work in progress, but by the end game. The end game is coming.
We'll get to the end game. Please don't go away. We'll be back after the short break. Welcome back. Tonight on the program, we have the MDC president, Senator Douglas Mwonzora. We are discussing a number of issues, but the most important of all, he is joining the political actors dialogue. Before we go to the Pollard, we are talking about the consistency in having the politics of rational disputation. But I want to bring you back to the things that you said you've done to make sure that come 2023, you'll be ready for the election. You want to have a Houdini Act in that election. Various surveys, they have returned a very ominous result insofar as the opposition is concerned. The youth vote is not likely to be a key factor in the election next year on account of lack of appetite to register to vote by the youth. What are you doing on your part to make sure that you've got these critical constituents on your side?
Well, Guthrie, first of all, the surveys have not completely painted a bleak picture for the opposition. I think the latest survey was the Afrobarometer,
Yes,
or the mass
correct.
public opinion one.
Yes.
It did give Nelson 33%, I think, to President Mnangagwa's 30%. Coming to an addition of a total of 63%. There is 37% that is unaccounted for in that survey. Mm-hmm. Now, the survey doesn't talk about the MDC ourselves. It doesn't talk about other political parties at all. It concentrates on 2 political parties. So there is no bleakness from the survey. But of course, yes, there are people who have said that the opposition is unlikely to do well. And they cite the division within the opposition to say because there is a division, then the opposition won't do well. That is very unscientific, actually. ZAPU and ZANU, ZAPU split into ZAPU and ZANU. And ZANU went on to win elections in 1980. In 2005, Morgan Tsvangirai's MDC split, Welshman Ncube and Tsvangirai. 3 years later, in 2008, Tsvangirai went on to post one of the biggest victories ever in the history of the country by the opposition party. So the mere fact of disagreements within the political, within the opposition does not spell doom. What is important is that a political party keeps within message. And what we have noticed is that there are more and more young people who are being attracted to the message of the MDC. Young people, the young people now are not interested in hate. They are not interested in fighting. They are not interested in violence. They are more interested in a political party that espouses what they want. So the MDC
So Senator Mwonzora, for the benefit of our viewers, what is this messaging?
For example, remember there was amendment number 2 in Parliament that we supported as the MDC. Yes. In that amendment number 2, there is a provision for the youth quota in Parliament. 10 members of Parliament will be youths. And we have said, and I have said at various platforms, that the youths are leaders of today and not leaders of tomorrow. And the youngsters are very, very excited about that. They are excited about that. They are excited about rational disputation. And if you look at some of their profiles, they actually repeat these phrases. So the MDC is on the rise when it comes to the youth vote. We are going to have more of the youth vote than any other political party because we have spoken about the concerns of the youth. We have spoken about what the youth must have its fair share in the political and economic life of our country.
Fantastic. There appears to be convergence now on the need for having peaceful elections next year. It's like everyone has come to the party. But what more can be done to make sure that we have peaceful 2023 elections?
Well, we need to make sure that there are electoral reforms. And these electoral reforms must basically guarantee the secrecy of the vote, the security of the vote, and the security of the voter. And I am happy to say that in an interaction that I had with President Mnangagwa recently, he indicated that the cabinet had proposed a bill, an election amendment bill, which contains some of the things that they had discussed with the principals at Pollard. And as you know, we are not in Pollard. So this Amendment Act is coming before Parliament. And we hope that this Amendment Act will address the issues that are of concern to the opposition. For me, looking at the independence of ZEC, many people worry themselves about the commission, the commissioners. But I don't think that is the problem with the ZEC. The problem with the ZEC is the Secretariat, which is not completely independent of the executive, and the subcommittees under ZEC. These subcommittees include the logistics subcommittee, the accreditation subcommittee. These are made up of appointees from the executive, for example, from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, from the President's Office, from Home Affairs. Now that compromises the independence of the Zimbabwe Election Commission. So that is a reform that we want to see.
I have heard that argument every election cycle. Is there anything that is within the law which precludes people who are not resident in these ministries that you're talking about from also being part of ZEC and being appointed by the executive?
The regulations actually speak about the specific people who must make those subcommittees. And it says a representative from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, a representative from the Ministry of Home Affairs. So it's specifically stated within the regulations. And
Senator, it means something has got to be done for those things to fall away. But you are all legislators. So one would say, during the subsistence of the life of this parliament, one would have hoped that those things would have been tabled before parliament to say, look, before we even go to 2018 elections, 2023 elections, when we were in 2018, well, let's signpost these things so that by the time we get to 2023 elections, we don't have these issues.
That's correct, Guthrie. In fact, that is what we had hoped for. But the fact of the matter is that in this parliament, ZANU-PF enjoys a supermajority. So if you go into the parliament, debate and vote, ZANU-PF will always have its way. And these things will be reproduced over and over again. And that is why we thought that we should go the dialogue route. Under the dialogue route, we will discuss outside parliament, we will reach consensus, and we will co-sponsor the amendments within parliament. In that case, it matters not whether one has a majority and one does not. So because the opposition in this parliament is not well represented, it is necessary that we have dialogue. And when you do dialogue, you appeal to the rationality of the other person. You also look at national interest. It is in the interest of the Zimbabwean people, be they ZANU-PF, MDC, or any other political party, to have undisputed elections, to have peaceful elections. That is why we are going for dialogue.
It is in our interest, Senator Mwonzora, that we take a breather, have a bit of a chat behind the scenes.
Thank you.
Please don't go away. You're watching Vantage. We'll be back after the short break. Welcome back to the final segment of this week's Vantage. If you've just joined us, we have on the program tonight not a new face, but a very familiar one. The MDC president, Senator Douglas Mwonzora. Senator Mwonzora, you're talking about dialogue, which brings me to the issue of the political actors dialogue platform, Pollard. Last week, you were at Pollard, and the speculation was that finally you have joined Pollard. For me, I believe that many people, they agree with Pollard, but they say it is not sufficient. What can be done to bring sufficiency to Pollard?
Oh, thank you very much. In fact, when the MDC wrote to President Mnangagwa on the 11th of June, they made a proposal that the dialogue must happen using a parliamentary platform. The president replied later on the 16th of September to say that he agreed with the dialogue, but that we should join Pollard. And then we had to put it to the party members of the MDC. The party members of the MDC said that Pollard was a necessary step but not sufficient. And they proposed that within Pollard we must establish a platform of political parties in parliament. In other words, there will be a parliamentary committee which is dedicated to Pollard. The advantage of that is that it gives Pollard legislative capability. In other words, what is discussed at Pollard will be brought to Parliament and actioned either in terms of in the form of laws or in terms of policy, which is actionable, because as it currently stands, it does not have legislative capability. So that was the suggestion. And last week when I was invited to Pollard, it was specifically among other things to discuss that issue. So I laid that before the principals of Pollard to say that we are proposing that there should be a platform for political parties in Parliament that has the duty of making sure that things are actioned in Parliament. But there is another advantage of such a platform. It is able to invite civil society, it is able to invite churches, it is able to invite ministers, it is able to invite stakeholders using parliamentary privilege, which Pollard does not have as things stand. So in Parliament, for example, we can say we want to see the Minister of Finance, we want to see the Minister of Home Affairs, and so on. And they are obliged to come. We can say civil society, we want to see you and want to hear your views. And this did happen under COPAC, where we had 30% MPs and 70% being members of the civil society. That can be recreated so that the dialogue is more inclusive, more genuine, and more unconditional. But I want to say, Guthrie, that people often confuse dialogue and the dialogue forum. Pollard is simply a forum. It is not the dialogue itself. Mm-hmm. The dialogue itself is going to come. It is the issues that have to be talked about. And in our view as the MDC, we want this dialogue so that we achieve key political, social, and economic reforms beneficial to our people. This dialogue is not about power sharing. This dialogue is about redressing and addressing the Zimbabwean issue in the best interest of the Zimbabwean people. And we are fortified that dialogue is the way to go because of history. The War of Liberation ended at Lancaster House with dialogue. The bloodletting in Matabeleland during Gukurahundi ended in 1987 with the signing of the Unity Accord with dialogue. And the bloodletting in 2008 ended with the signing of the Global Political Agreement. That was dialogue. There is sufficient historical evidence that the Zimbabwean problems are resolvable by dialogue. There is no other sustainable method.
Why are your cousins at CCC not seeing this? Because there is sufficiency in terms of the historical dialogue that has taken place to resolve some of the conflicts that were there then. Why are they not seeing the importance of being under Pollard?
Well, CCC does not see quite a lot of things and so on. And it makes certain decisions that I, as a politician, do not understand. For example, it doesn't seem to have a national executive. It seems to have three functionaries, the president, the spokesperson, and the deputy. It's a leadership style that I don't understand. And I should be excused. They should excuse me on that, but I do not understand their leadership. And this is why, although their party is led by a young person, it has failed to attract young people because young people do not want a leadership style of that nature. Young people want a leadership style that is more inclusive. And that is rational. That must be able to justify why it is doing certain things. But the history of dialogue in Zimbabwe, the success of dialogue in Zimbabwe, its benefit, immense benefit to the people of Zimbabwe is there for all to see. Tsvangirai did it, Nkomo did it, Mugabe did it with Smith. When you are dialoguing with someone, it doesn't make you that person's puppet, as they say. Mugabe negotiated with Smith at Lancaster House. That did not make Mugabe a Smith person. Tsvangirai negotiated with Mugabe in the global political agreement. That didn't make Tsvangirai a Mugabe person. Mwonzora is seeking to negotiate with Mnangagwa, the sitting head of state. And the Triple C and some people say we are a puppet. But this is propaganda to be expected in this political game. But the truth of the matter is that Zimbabwe needs dialogue. The people of Zimbabwe are tired of senseless fighting. They are tired of hate language. They are tired of political contestations that don't yield anything. For example, if you go to a typical rally in Zimbabwe, a political rally, half of the time is spent on denigrating other political parties, denigrating other political actors. Very little time is devoted to telling Zimbabweans what you have in store. This is the difference between the MDC and other political parties. We have policies for the revival of Zimbabwe. And I can tell you right now that our vision is that Zimbabwe can be revived, the revival can be kick-started by looking at 3 sectors: the agriculture, manufacturing, and mining.
I'm sure we'll be hearing more of that as you draw up your manifesto.
Yes.
This program believes that it does not leave anyone with questions. Therefore, we don't leave anyone behind. I would like to thank you once again for having made time to be with us on this program. And I'm sure as we head towards the elections, we'll be having more of these discussions.
Thank you.
Thank you for having watched this week's program. We had the MDC President, Senator Douglas Mwonzora, on the program. We leave no one with questions. Definitely, there has to be answers. Until next time, pleasant viewing.